Morning, everyone. In this video, we'll talk about convocation, a little bit of lift stuff, what I'm up to, and I got a little bit of tactical stuff maybe to talk about using TTS. So I have been playing. I'm in lunch meets. I'm in the TTS league. I'm currently 4-0 in the TTS league, so I'll have a game tonight versus Gundog, who beat me in I think a season or two seasons ago. I'm excited to play, but it doesn't. I'm already in the finals. I'm pretty sure. I've gone 5-1 in the first three, and I'm minimum 4-2 now, and I don't think 30 people can beat that combined record, whether I win this game or not. If I win this game, I'm definitely in, and if I win two more games, then I'm definitely in as well. Not that this is all it's about. It's not just about getting to the finals. It's about playing games. Though I don't know if I'll do the next season just to take a break from one of them because I have the online team event with Curtis and Johnny. So there's actually a online team event TG Lord is running for like US based people. 3-man teams, basically squad goals again. And so Curtis, Johnny, and I will be running that back as well, not the same squads, but we're playing as a team for that. And there's 16 teams, so that's really exciting. 4 rounds. We'll see how it goes. There's actually some really good teams in there. I think the Lucas brought a team, Grip It and Rip It, I guess, but Lucas isn't on the team. It's Dean instead. So that's a very strong team, and we'll do our best. I mean, we're not going to be playing Apocalypse, Midnight Suns, and Avengers again. I think we'll be doing. I think Johnny's playing Crims, and I'm on Convocation, and Curtis is running 3 random. He's still going through stuff. Nonetheless, so the list building for that is going to be a little bit different than what I'm playing in the TTS league, and in the lunch meet I'm still 2-0, so I'm locked into my Thralls duel there, and then I have a local on Saturday that I'm going to bring. Pretty sure I'm going to bring Convocation too. I know I'm going to bring Convocation. I just haven't decided on every single model. And so I was on the Whalen podcast, and I talked about this, and I talked about the Thralls duel, and here's my, I've played a lot of Thralls games, maybe not a lot, but I've played enough. They're very generically fine. The leadership is fine. It's not exciting. I don't think that's a surprise. I mean, you just give bleed to people. But I will also preface a little bit that, anyone who's listened to me talk knows that I really like interesting leaderships from I don't think Steve 1 has an interesting leadership. I don't think M'Baku has a very interesting leadership. I'm not saying they're bad, but they're not interesting that much. They're just doing your stuff a little better. I do think something like Steve 3's leadership is I guess on the spectrum of interesting, is like a tier 2 from the tier 1s of like Suns, Convocation, New Mutants. Leadership is very interesting. Anyway, the point being is that it's just not going to be that exciting to like bleed people. It has worked. I mean, I got crushed by Dean on stream. I should have picked Wizards into that matchup, but I don't blame Dracula's leadership for that. The point being is it's been fine. I think what I've noticed the most is from maybe since I did the Wayland episode, is I really like playing Dracula. He feels much worse under his own leadership depending on what you're playing. And I think it basically comes down to how Convocation Bump can just get you actions in theory, because you can get back to points when people attack you. So I think if I had to say the issue I have with the Thralls duel, and somebody's going to be like, I told you so, is that 2 of the midline things I've talked about using it for, right? Fisk, Wedding Party, Intrusions, 2 of them have moving extracts. So if on Intrusions, if Dracula can just walk to an Intrusions turn 1 and smack somebody, because he's the long move. He's probably good for the rest of the game to never move again, barring somebody displacing him. And that's fine. But the problem on like Wedding Party or Fisk is, okay, he controls it, and say he wins it once, and maybe they want to stun him and then he's still on it. But like with the other one, with the Wedding Party, they can just move it away from him, and okay, he has to walk again to get back on it. And you might be saying, hey, that's stupid. He of course has to walk to get on it. But I think that I'm starting to realize just how, I don't want to say annoying that is, but like it is. Like it's a big deal. Like when your model doesn't have natural movement and somebody can just move the extract away from you far enough that like you have to walk to get it, like it's a big deal if like you're only playing a little bit wide. But like Hulk, for example, or somebody with charge can just leap or charge to where the point is, and yeah, you need power to do that, but yeah, it's just that there's no other way to get there for Dracula, barring somebody moving him. But in the teams I play Dracula, I don't have like if I'm playing Convocation, I have Doctor Strange, but like I don't have Doctor Strange to like get there. I think the same thing can be said, even Abomination to some extent. Like at least he has his spender to kind of get onto it if somebody moves it away from him. But I do think that there's something there after playing it where you can't like keep the pressure on the extra secures without moving your model. And of course, like there's lots of models that have to move there, and Dracula can like bow people back to him if he wants to, and he has decent control of it. It just felt like it's very fine, but it didn't feel like the answer that I'm looking for. But I will say that I've very, very much so enjoyed playing with Dracula, and I do think Convocation turns him up to the notch. I can almost like, I don't know enough about where he plays elsewhere, but I can almost say Convocation is like either his number 1, 2, or 3 spot. I mean, that doesn't sound like, that's pretty obvious. Like, I guess it's either Thrall's Cabal or Convocation. Midnight Suns has some, maybe some say there, but I think it's up there as the best, if one of the best, if not the best spot. Maybe Cabal, Red Skull 3 Cabal, maybe is his absolutely. I don't even know that too. I think the pressure you get with Bump on the aggressive side is ridiculous and makes him like a freaking pain in the ass. And I think you'd really notice on other teams that like not being able to get back to secures. I just think Bump, like the amount of actions you get potentially from getting bumped is huge, and people can ignore him, but at least maybe you can do some more about it with him. And he's good with Wong, getting power early and stuff like that. That being said, I guess what I'm trying to get at is if two of my midline answers are Dracula, and I don't think Thralls itself is particularly good on it, is there a way to, I don't know, fix that in some capacity? I did think about maybe one of the answers is Taskmaster. So if you think about it from the Convocation side, so a Wedding Party like 20, for example, right? There is no reason a team like, okay, you can say midline stuff, Wizards maybe have issues. You could say that. I don't know if that's even true per se. But like, who's a bad midline Wizard? Like, truly, like, you're like, I don't want them. Wong doesn't love it. Voodoo's fine. Magic is fine. Like, she needs to be up there anyway. Sure, she wants to dance back a little more, but she's not bad at any of them. Strange is fine. Like, listen, he doesn't, it's not like his ideal world to be sitting on intrusions, but, like, he's not unplayable on intrusions. It just usually comes with, like, if your team is Baron Mordo Wong on intrusions, then they're like, okay, 2 models really don't want to be there, and everyone else is kind of, you got to have people to compensate for it. So I do think one of the potential compensations for it is if you take Taskmaster as an extra 3, you can run teams like Strange, Magic, Taskmaster, Dracula's Shang-Chi, for example, right? So you have these, you're only two technical wizards, but you have these models who are good with bump, just fine on the midline, have displacement, and then you just say, okay, I'm going to take Taskmaster sitting on a point is fine. Like, there's nothing, for Wedding Party, that's a fine Wedding Party team. You have Shang, who is really good on Wedding Party because he can easily get people off of it. You have Dracula, who has a bow. You have Strange, who has a teleport. And then, not only that, you have Bump, which is really good because if you're fighting around the wedding guests, you can, if they move it away from you or something like that, potentially, depending on how far they move it and where you are, you can, if they're attacking, you can bump towards it and get on it without having to move. Like a big thing with Dracula would be if you're standing on the middle of it and they move it away from him, then when you bump, you should be able to get in range of it. And that's something we'll measure on TTS. But, that's a big deal. Also Strange, Magic has a self-move. Shang has charge, and Doctor Strange has teleport, scalpel. So, there's a lot of ways to, chase the objectives without, and get people off of them. Getting people off of them was Strange in those three. So you have three people that can move themselves with some sort of thing. Three people who can displace people. And then, that's a fine fighty team. And, you have to deal with Dracula, in the midst of things. So that was my other solution, would be maybe I should ask Taskmaster and just say, well, if I'm playing Thralls and it's Dracula, I don't know, Zemo, I don't know, Abomination or something, and the worst case I have to do is, okay, I have to take Taskmaster over Zemo, which is a big deal, and maybe Strange over Abomination. They're two different beasts. It's not really fair to phrase it like that, but Strange is good. Strange is really good. So it's not this we're taking some shitty 5 and having to compensate for it. You get a better leadership. That's not a card, so that's a big deal. And you get access Plains of Poldark, who that team I just said is amazing with Plains of Poldark, because Magic, Shang, Strange, and Dracula all use the card in very good ways. Dracula Spender, if you don't have somebody bleeding, you can do. Shang-Chi Spender on the backside. Magic. That team is great with that card. So I'm kind of leaning towards Taskmaster and maybe leaning into saying, okay, maybe I still have the Thralls card. But for those ones that move, I feel like it's the Convocation leadership. I've just felt enough games where my Dracula is either not on secure for whatever reason, either it's moves or just whatever I do turn 1. And then you realize that at some point you're going to have to move again. And it just sucks. Because how many games I've sat there with the extract or the secure half an inch away and I just refuse to walk to it because I want to just attack people is enough to make me go, yeah, I like this Convocation leadership. I do want to actually pivot before we talk about the list and maybe what I'm going to add. I was thinking about this today or yesterday, since it's 5 a.m., that, there's a lot of little, we always talk about measurements to know. And I'm starting to think, both watching people play Convocation and just watching people play in general, that I know a lot of movement tricks, but I think that Suns and Convocation are some of the most important to know them. And the reason I say that is I've seen enough people take bumps on both sides of it where they don't know if they were going to get in range of something, that I think it's incremental value. I almost hate saying that because it's, for those who don't know, I've been playing some Flesh and Blood, the card game, because of Johnny, and they use that term a lot, and I both understand it and I both kind of hate it. But anyway, what I mean by that is there's some stuff that's kind of obvious and some stuff that there's some bumps that don't matter. You're just trying, right? Somebody throws you off a point, throws you into a building. you're gonna make an attempt to bump back something stupid like that, right? Like it's whatever at that point. I'm gonna try to get back. If it works, it works. And there are some that like you can pre-set up for the most part, and at least try to do. But I'll give you an example of one that maybe is kind of important, kind of interesting. So like I've said this before on Sons, but since not everyone watches my son's videos that plays Convocation, like one that's interesting is, okay, you want to bump backwards to this, right? Do I have, I want to do like, let's actually put something out here that's not this random bullshit. Let's just pick one. Or scoundrels. I like scoundrels. I guess what I'm trying to get at while I'm doing this is, over the course of a game, you're going to make bumps. And every bump you make that isn't like, oh, I think I'm going to make it back to the secure, but I don't know, I'm going to try it, but it could be something else, like, is a big deal. So, for example, if you're standing right here, right? So, the short stick, this, should be just far enough that if you bump, you will get back within one of this objective, right? So, let's see if I measured it right. Boom. You see that? You get back within one. So that's something that's really good to know, because you know if somebody hits you right here, you can go, am I going to make it back to contesting this objective? And you can say yes. Obviously, with terrain in the way, you have to have some sort of But okay, this is a good example. You will not make it this way. You'll make it this way. So if you bump this way, you're not going to make it. It's too far. It's like I think it's just farther than the stick. So like the stick is like a safety. Like, I guess the best way to do it would be to go like this and then bump directly away and then measure it. Right? So if you bump directly away, now if you take the stick, okay, you have a little bit more range than the stick. But that's a good, it's a good way to think about it. So, but you can't go this way. So I've just learned that you cannot place yourself in such a way with this size of a base that you can get exactly between them and bump to contest either one. But clearly, like a werewolf can. So that's a really good one to know, because I think people have trouble measuring like the small base bump stuff. So I think that's one, because again, you can just, like the example here, right? It was really close. It was really, if you put it right here, maybe you're out of range of both if you put it wrong. You probably are out of range of both if you put it wrong. But it might behoove you to be like just right here and know that like, okay, I can bump back to this one. But like it looks so close though, right? So if you were attacked by somebody, you might attempt to bump here, fail, and then lose out on a point that you could have got bumping here. So again, that incremental value of, if you know where your bumps can go and what you can get out of range of, I think it adds up over time to maybe get enough value to give you a point or two, or an extra attack here or there. And I think that does actually separate some of the top wizard players from the bottom ones. Like, to be honest with you, I think that's a big deal, and I think it's something I think about a lot. And setting yourself up for optimal bumps would be good. So like it could be something as far as like if you need to attack somebody, this direction, range 2, you might want to think about, how far am I now? You can't measure this while you're moving, but you can measure like, okay, I want to be at least a little bit, I can be a little bit over the range 2 from this secure, knowing I can get back to it. That's a big one. Here's a couple big ones. We all know that if you're base to base with a model, you won't get out of range 2 with this size base. It'll be just within. So essentially, if you're playing against wizards, that's a good one to note. Also, I think a card that is like actually pretty good in wizards, or Convocation, even without Dracula, is Warpath. It's actually kind of funny that it's like the one way to like get out of things with bump, because if like I Hulk, he attacks you and he throws you into himself so that you can't bump away from the second attack, you could like warpath through him and then bump away. And unless he can like block, you know, every direction going through him with terrain and people, like that just works. So I actually think Warpath with Wizards is like really good. Like the more I think about it, the more I'm like that could easily get you a VP by like, you know, warpathing towards somebody and then bumping to like this. Like if you're here and they attack you, you could like warpath here and then bump. Even more extreme angle you could probably do it, right? Like if you're like sitting back here and some jack off at range 4 is attacking you, right? You could go like, let's see, towards, you could go like, oh, I'm going to warpath here and bump here. And let's just say you're Doctor Strange and all of a sudden you're like back here and you could like teleport or range 5 somebody else. So I actually think Warpath could be like a sneaky, really good card with Convocation, even without Dracula. I think it just gets you places that you might not think about you're going to be able to get to. Or like Strange being able to, like you can bump, but bump only gets you so far. But if you could Warpath, bump, get within range 2 on a secure, and then teleport people off. So that's one I think is really important. There's another one. The other two, again, I think it's about incremental value and about positioning. I talked about this on I played against Dutch and I mentioned at the end of the video. And again, these might have been mentioned before, but it's just nice to refresh you because we all know some of the little ones, but this is a big one. So if you're on something like Scoundrels and you're against somebody like that does like a short move, either a short throw or like a Shuri, stuff like that. One thing that's good to note is if you put a 50 millimeter base or medium base on the middle of a secure, just straight up middle of a secure, boop, then no matter which way you get pushed, like if they had an omnidirectional push or throw, you can always, as long as you take damage, you can always get back within 1. Obviously, terrain permitting. But if they're pushing you, then terrain would block their push before it would block your bump. Most of the time. So, like, I guess a better example, well, if they're bowing you, you're not taking damage. But it's just good to note, like, there are times where, like, I'm going to get hit by, I don't know, Space Maul, and he has a move trigger, and you're like, okay, well, if I position myself exactly on the center, as long as he does damage, I can get off of it. Of course, you can also backstop yourself. If you're against like Shuri, who can only push you away, you could be towards the front, stuff like that. But it's just good to note. I think it's just a good little like thing to keep in mind once in a while. It's not something I actively like do all the time. But if somebody's attacking you with 2 different models, and you're like, okay, they're gonna Shuri shoot me here, and I get attacked from here, and the difference is like coming here or coming here. Go in the middle if you can. It does block it. Okay, that's one. The last one that's kind of, again, this one's just math, but it's just I mean, they're all just math, but this one I like a lot, and I think, but it matters both playing against Convocation and with Convocation. So let's just look at 2 different measurements, the medium and the 3, right? They're 1 inch different. Right? So the 3 is pretty much exactly 1 inch longer than the medium. And so what that means is most models have medium moves. And so base size doesn't actually matter in this particular instance. But when you're scalpeling somebody, right? So for example, if somebody's here, if you scalpel them, it doesn't matter which way you go. They're always going to be able to walk back within 1. And that makes perfect sense, right? Like, so the bases doesn't matter because the base distance you gain away, they get back coming back. So the only difference between them being teleported and then walking back is the movement tool versus the range tool, and I already said it's 1 inch. So if they're touching this objective, right, then since they're only losing 1 inch on the way back, they'll be within an inch there. But, okay, the counterpoint is, let's say they're here. If you were to send them directly away, so this is, I mean, it's pretty obvious, like, the way that, like, okay, you're in the corner of the board. It's probably not, it's probably more obvious. Maybe here, for example, is a good one. This is a good example, right? Let's just say you're here. And the difference between, and we'll clone, right? Let's clone 2 of these guys. You can have a choice. You can say, well, I'm going to teleport him this way, right? Directly down. Or I'm going to teleport him this way, directly over. And both might be like, whatever, it's fine. Right? Maybe you saying, I'm going to go this way because it's way out of the action, right? And let's just say Strange is like, I don't know, here or something. Well, I think one thing to note is, and again, this is another thing too, like, if Strange is within 2 of them, one, they lose the distance to attack you, but let's just say Strange is here. Okay, let's just say you're in this situation. Which way should you teleport them? All things considered. Well, we'll take this that way. Let's just look at what they can do. In this one, he can walk back and he can attack Strange. In this one, he can walk back. I think he can still attack. He can't attack Strange, and he's not on the point. Right? So, like, that was small, right? That wasn't a big difference. Like, he was just standing here. And you might say, well, I'm going to get him off the point. But, like, knowing that if he's not touching it, if you go directly away from, like, where he isn't touching it, he won't be able to get back in one move. This is really good for, like, Bill, for example, right? Like, if this was Bill on 2 power, let's use this example. If this was Bill on 2 power, the difference between this and this, if assuming this one's Strange, is that this Bill gets to walk, attack you, potentially do a damage to get a throw, and to stun you. And this one has to double walk just to contest the objective. Again, incremental stuff. Everything I just showed you, right? Everything you saw here. There's nothing, if you were to watch a game of somebody, 2 people play, right? And one of them, I don't know, look at all the examples. One of them put their guy exactly on the middle. One of them teleported, here to here. And somebody made sure, or noticed that they were just out of range of this, right? You might have 3 little moments in a game. One where this person, you could have somebody who went like this and got pushed off and didn't make it back on the bump. They teleported the person here and then they walked back and attacked. And this person tried to bump backwards and they would be like, the caster would be like, oh, they just didn't get in range. Right? I don't think anybody would be like, oh my God, that's insane. How did, that's unfortunate. They'd almost be like, that's unfortunate. And every single one of those things, in theory, if you had, if it flowed with the game state stuff, could have been slightly better. You could have noticed here that you weren't going to make it to this one, but you are going to make it to this one, right? And bump this way. And just, maybe you don't want to be there. But let's just say you did. And you're there. And then this person, you could have said, well, instead of putting them here, you put them on the middle. And when they push you back, you bump within here. And this one, you say, okay, well, instead of teleporting them across this way, I'm going to teleport them down. And all of a sudden, they lose, they have to use another action to get back. It just look for things. I think you really need a good spatial awareness. I think when you're doing turn 1 stuff, I just wanted to point those out. I know it took a while to explain it, but I've seen enough people play Convocation, and I'll say this: nothing I just did was super manufactured. Like, I'm not saying go out of your way. Okay, this one, when you stand on the middle, maybe you intentionally do it if you can. If you think they're going to push you off like a Shiri. This one, like half of these are just like good to know, right? And I don't know what else. It's just good to know that like some of these ranges, because yeah, because it's the difference between if you do, it's people that like bump towards things that don't know if they're going to be in range of it, and I'm just like, you should be able to measure this. Like if you're within 3, it's the whole like Dracula thing, right? If you're just at exactly 3, then if you bump, you're not going to be within range 2. You're going to be like just out of it. It looks close, but you're just out. But if you're anywhere within that range 3, like even a quarter of an inch in, you're going to make it. And so knowing that changes maybe if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to make it, or I don't know if I'm going to get out of a range. Another thing, somebody attacks you at exactly range 3, and you're like this model, like magic, and you get hit for a damage. You should be able to go. If I go exactly 1 inch backwards, they're not going to be able to get me. Or, just because of the way that the tools work. So, again, get the value you can. It's very, learn your distances. Every bump is a potential. I mean, I still mess things up where, like, I have a bump, and I'm like, I don't need to bump. And then I realize, like, when it's time to activate that person, I'm now not within walk attack of a, you're sitting here with, like, Strange or something. I don't even know if this works. I don't know. Can you always make it? I guess one thing to note, too, is, like, this is basically where if you're Strange teleporting yourself, like, where this is where you'll end, your front of your base will be. So it's kind of, like, just good to note that, I guess if you look at like where the back of his base is where Strange will, where range 3 is. So that's always good to note too. It just makes sense because the base is 2 inches and 3 versus 4 is 2 inches. But like, okay, if you're here and you're like, oh, I'm on the secure, I'm fine, I don't need to bump anywhere, and then you realize that like, oh, my teleport is not going to get me on that further one. I should have bumped even just an inch up here so that it would. Those little things. Anyway. What was I talking about? My roster. I don't know what I'm going to take this weekend. So I need a roster for tonight's game versus Gundog, and I need a roster for this weekend. I do think these... I would say if I close my eyes, Baron Zemo doesn't have to be there. But he is good in this roster. He's good with books. He's fast. He's good with Wong. Boring old. He's a boring answer. But we'll use him. I do think Mummy is another good 3. I think between Mummy, and I think the problem I have is I think Mummy or Taskmaster, or Mummy or Zemo needs to be Taskmaster. I don't really want to play all 4 of them. I feel like that's too many. But maybe not if you're going all Convocation. I mean, if you do the Thrall side still, like I had Hulk in my roster. Like I almost want to take Space Maul, to be honest with you. Maybe I'll take Space Maul tonight. He's so fun, is the thing. Space Maul, that is. Do I have enough cards to play Space Maul? I guess here's the thing. If you take Taskmaster, I almost don't think there is a scenario you get like giga fucked by. I don't care what anyone says. You can win on Fisk with Strange. I actually don't even think it's that. I don't think it's that difficult. I think you can be an asshole with your models, and I've had people like I've taken my son's 16 into Fisk into Wizards, and almost lost. Like I was like, holy shit! Like I thought I was like, I'm going to get so many points. And he just kept teleporting me away and moving the things backwards to where I'm like, oh, it's not. It's like, okay, I scored an extra 2 turn 1 because I got to walk up, throw somebody off, and not all those guys were on points. But like, if they're controlling more extra than you or can really teleport your models away and maybe pin down Blade, you're like, oh shit, like it gets hard. I think honestly the only one that like really stands out to me is probably Intrusions, but even that team I said with Task, Magic, Strange, Dracula, Zemo or something, or just some other combination. Like, cause you can always go like, depending on what your splashes are, you can go like you could go Magic. A crazy one would be like Magic Wong, Taskmaster, Dracula, Space Maw, or something, and you go actual convocation, and you say, all right, Convo is still better than Thralls. Intrusions is like the one that I'm like, okay, I do think that Thralls is probably slightly favored in some matchups just because if you get on the Intrusions, you kind of take away, like, you can just teleport and it kind of takes away some of Strange's advantages and stuff like that. But I think a lot of this also comes back to this whole, like, Thanos and Thor 2 really aren't in the game. Right? So, like, sure, there could be random things out there that, like, are really good at intrusions that you're going to have maybe some struggle on. But it's not like it was before. Like, probably the game that put me off of Convocation the last time was Johnny's Thanos Red Skull 3. I mean, it's not Johnny's list. It's Red Skull 3 Cabal. Like, it's the collars list, if anything. But that's just, like, really, really, really good on it. But that's gone. Thor 2, gone. Okay, there's some good teams on it, but there's nothing that's like, I kind of sit here and go, is my team really that bad on it? Bumps are always annoying for anybody, like, even on intrusions. Maybe I could play solo convocation. And if I play solo convocation, if I commit to that, then what are some splashes or models that help the different situations? You could play Crimson Dynamo. You could say, I'm going to run Dynamo for intrusions, and it's going to be at least 19 if you want to play 19, and you can run teams like Dracula, Dynamo, Magic, Taskmaster, Voodoo. And you say, okay, Voodoo isn't the greatest brawler, because Supreme is Supreme better in that scenario? Maybe. But you could make the claim that, I guess you could run like Dracula. Oh no, that you can't have. In the situation I was about to say, you can't have Dynamo in that particular. You could run like Dynamo, Shang, Magic, Strange, Taskmaster, right? Like, that's not that crazy to run. He's good on meteors. He's really is kind of a funny model in Convocation. I've played him back when E's were more of a thing, just because like people who attack you out of range 3 for your little thing, you can kind of bump in, because I think that Suns, maybe it's better in Suns in the theory that I'm talking about, but I think there's some things you can do where I was going somewhere with this commentary. I promise you. And now I'm like, I don't remember where I was going with this. Oh, like bumping in and out. Like, one reason I think like Shang, Zemo, and stuff is good in Magic. I think so. First off, I do want to say that I think Magic is a very good 3. Like, I think she's getting to the point that we need to stop looking at her as like, oh, she's decent in affiliation. At least she's fine. She does it. To like legitly not taking over Baron Zemo. I think there's some really, really good 3 splashes. And I'm not saying to people here, throw her in all your rosters. But if somebody was like, I take Magic as I want a fighty 3 that has mystic attacks, I'd be like, yeah, sure, she's good. Like, straight up. Like, she's good. I wouldn't I would consider taking her in Suns. Like, I think there was a time where before the changes where I played the dual Suns roster, and it was similar to this, but it had like, had Blade, Eyehawk, and Red Skull 2. In fact, you could probably take a very similar roster with what I have here and then put Mummy in for like Zemo and maybe somebody for Dracula, just because of how it works out. And I would say, hell yeah, man. Like, Magic as a splash in Suns, if you're going against webs and you can run like Voodoo, Mummy, Magic, Blade, Voodoo Mummy Magic Blade is a 13, and then even go like just somebody Shang, right? That Voodoo Mummy Magic Blade is 11. She's 14. At 18 with Shang, like that team feels like amazing on paper. Like just saying that team out loud, I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, that sounds like a great team. Magic with bump is great because you can bump in and bump out. You can, anybody with like movement shenanigans with bump is good because you can bump out of range and then use your little thing to get back. So, if Shang's getting attacked by range 3, he after the first hit, he can bump out of range just barely of the second hit, and then he can charge back in. So you're not losing anything by leaving the range with bump. And then obviously models like Dracula who can, get an advantage by going in. So yeah, Taskmaster isn't like my favorite model to play in this roster, but I do think he brings like a very unique. Unique is not the right word. He's fine. He's good. Maybe good. Let's go back to editing. I know, we're here. It's been a long video, but whatever. If you're still with me, living the dream with me. How would we do this if we're going pure convocation and we're not even taking the Dracula? The thing is, some of the models I take in the other roster. So I only have 2 rosters. This is my lunch meat list. So I'm saying that Hulk, A-Bomb, and Mummy. Mummy's really good. One reason he wasn't in the other list you were looking at is because Johnny has him for the team event, so I have to not play him. So because I can't play him, like, he's not even a consideration right now. But, like, he would be good here, but I don't know. Maybe it is, like, maybe I should put in... Should I put in Maw? You guys here? Should I put in Maul? I do think a team like Wong, Magic, Taskmaster, Maul, Dracula is actually really funny. Like, I legit think it's actually pretty good too. Like, it's kind of funny. Like, the one reason I want to try Taskmaster is the 8 threat core, right? I think Magic has gotten enough better. Wong is Wong. He's fine. He's not great. He's fine. But I feel like it's only 15 threat, but like these 5 models, if you could have a team of these 5, would be pretty legit. Or even like you start to get like the 9 threat core or the 10 threat. Like there's just different combinations to get like 10, 9, 11, 12 to where I do think you can run solo convocation with these 5 models and say, okay, depending on what I'm against, I can kind of make things happen. I think I had a game streamed recently versus Sean. Yeah, where I played McCrane versus foes. Well, Jesus Christ, like that was brutal. Like I should not. Okay, so here's the other thing I'm learning. I love Dracula. He is very fun to play. I have to like. This is crazy, and I've said this many times, and I'm gonna say it again because I have to keep reminding myself every day, or I'm gonna forget. Doctor Strange Supreme is a very good model. A very, very good model, in my opinion. Not busted, not broken. A very good model if used correctly. And I need to stop treating him like he is this add-on bullshit that, like, sucks. Because that's how I treat him. I treat him like, in that game where I took, like, Task, Magic, Wong, Dracula, Shang. I took these models, right? I treated it as Dracula as like so superior to Strange that it was worth taking Taskmaster over Zemo. And then you look at McCrane or McChicken, whatever, and you go, wow, it would have been really nice if I had 2 extra models that can move really fast and one that can teleport people off. As opposed to like Mr. Walk-in now displacement and Dracula who just got like kind of stranded out there. Like that's the kind of stuff where like this team right here, like Magic, Shang, Strange, Zemo, Wong is a sneaky, not even sneaky fast team. Like charge, teleport, pseudo charge, backpoint sitter. Like that 17 on like a D shape, you can get around the map. Like fuck voodoo sometimes. Like sometimes I am like screw voodoo. I don't want even want him here. I want Shang to like go beat the people up. Oh, I'm digging this already. Look at this, guys. Okay, cards. I think this is good. Recal's the one I could see dropping now because if you're not going to run thralls, I don't know if I'd ever take Recal in this particular roster. Okay, let's keep it going, guys. We're here. It's only 6 a.m. All right. I kind of want Space Maul because I had Hulk, but Hulk was there with Dracula, and fuck Hulk. He's so lame. I know he's good, guys. I know he's good. I don't actually like running Hulk with. He's probably actually is good in Convocation. Big base bumps. Fuck that. Space Maul's so much cooler. My Space Maul's not painted. That's okay. Sometimes when I'm making a roster with like Space Maul, I type in small and I realize it's not actually. You can't actually find Space Maul doing it that way. I want a gem. I want Space Gem. Infinity Gems. Yeah, perfect. Team Tactics. You gotta put Shush in. Shush is the with all of Vince's videos talking about Carnage, which are good videos. You should go watch them. Being meta and stuff like that, you need Space Maul versus Sky. Space Maul will giga kill this. Will giga mess up Carnage. I'm not saying I don't actually like the word when people are like, what's the word I hate that people use? I don't like the word busted. There's some shit people say that bug me when they're really extreme about things. So I'm trying not to do that. But if you ever paint the town red, shush paint the town red on Carnage, might be the best superpower in the game to shush. Top 5. I mean, just look. So if he KOs somebody, he loses 3 power, which is a big deal on Carnage. He loses the self heal, he loses the attack, and the boosted attack, and he can't do it again. So if he is on 1 AP with 1 health, 2 actions with 1 health, and he kills somebody with his first action, you could stop him from healing 7. He doesn't get to move, so he's stuck where he is, and he doesn't get to make an attack. So if there's nobody in range, well, he wouldn't get to make an attack anyway. Yeah, you basically can, like, giga brick this guy. Like, to the point that, like, his second action is... Because he could have been on 1 health, and he could have walked, healed everything, attacked somebody with 7 dice for free, right? So that could have been his thing. He could maybe walk to a new target. Let's just say there's no one within range 3. He killed the 1 person who was in range 3. Now you've said, okay, nope, stand there. You can go walk somewhere else if you want, but you're done after that. You go from 5 dice attack, 7 dice attack, 5 dice attack, maybe even a spender on the second one, and heal to just like, oh, you're there. Shush is really good with Carnage, is all I'm going to say. Man, I really want to play Space Maul. Let's go, boys and girls. Yeah. Fuck Recal. You don't need Recal on this list. Has 1 slot left. Man. Can I play? I think there's 2. So I'll make 2 comments on this particular roster. I think that the last spot should either be, without thinking way too hard, and let's say you want to go pure convocation. Some considerations for the last spot. A 5 threat. Abomination Juggernaut, for example. I'm not over Juggernaut in this list, but I'm kind of like whatever. Abomination is a good 5 if you want it. That kind of gets back to this whole, you can't run all... I guess you can technically run all your 5s and then like Wong Magic on 20, which is probably okay, though I think I'm kind of leaning that it's probably better to like take a 4 and Voodoo or something, or somebody in place of Wong than it is to take two fives. Like I don't think the Shang upgrade is like so immense that it really makes a big deal. I think you could take a 4. Um, so I think 5 is cute, but I'm a little less high on it. I think Strange and Dracula together are nice. They give you some nice options. Um, if you're going like I don't know, like for all the moments where you're like, unless you're taking all your fives together or you're taking one of the fives, I don't think there's many double 5 rosters where you're like so crazy to be so excited to take like Abomination over Strange type things. Of course, they're different models. One's tanky, they're totally different models. I'm not trying to take away from Abomination; it's very good. But like, if your plan is to take Wong Magic Taskmaster for 8 and then take Dracula Abomination for 18, like a part of me is like, well, is it better just to take Strange and like Zemo, right? Like, because you got to remember you're getting Taskmaster for Zemo. It's not nothing. Like Taskmaster's a fine model, but he's not Zemo. And so, is Strange Zemo better than A-Bomb Taskmaster is kind of like the question you got to ask yourself there. You're also forcing your leadership on the Wonger Magic, which I don't think is not nothing in some of these matchups. And Strange is just better with it. So I'm actually leaning away from from putting in another 5. I don't think you need another 6 in this roster. I don't know when you're going to play it. Though it is kind of funny that you can run 6/6 Wong Task Magic. Man, there are some funny teams you can play with like the 8 threat core. Because the leadership is just really that good, in my opinion, at least. Gladiator is like a good 6/2. You can play. I know Zach likes him. I think Maul is funnier, so I think I'm going to put Maul for my list for right now. Because he's the one model that like I've wanted to play a lot and I haven't got to. We're long video, man. Okay, so I think if I'm gonna narrow it down to, I had to pick for tomorrow for my tournament, it would be between Rhino, Crimson Dynamo, and Mummy. And so let me give you a quick reason for all 3. Mummy's pretty self obvious, in my opinion at least. He's just a very good tanky 3. He's good with Poldock. He's decent with bump. Like he's just a great model. It's really annoying to play against. And he gives you teams where you can run like Strange, Voodoo, Magic, Zemo, Mummy. And that's a pretty good 18 threat for like hammers and stuff. Maybe where he falters a little is he is way better than Taskmaster, but like there are teams where like you can take Shang Taskmaster and just have Taskmaster be your tanky extract holder, and he's nowhere near the same as Mummy. But like, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know. I would definitely like him. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I don't want. If I had 11 models, I would probably take Rhino and Mummy, I think. So the argument for Rhino, other than him being a staple in this roster for a long time, is it opens up the 17 of Wong, Magic, Voodoo, Shang, Rhino, which is a really good like scenario 17 versus like webs and stuff. That's a cute. I mean, I've played it once or twice. It's pretty good. You can kind of argue like, okay, if you're gonna take Shang, if you're taking Shang and I don't know Rhino, you could just take Dracula Zemo. Totally different. I mean, versus webs, that's like night and day, right? But like that's not bad either. Or you could take Dracula. Does that even work? I don't think that team works. Nope, too many points. Right? Yeah, okay. There's something there where you could take, okay, Magic, Taskmaster, Wong, Shang, Dracula. So that's more of a killy one. I don't know. I don't know if I guess it's like the incremental value thing where it's like, okay, there are surely teams that can use mummy. Is I think it's the Taskmaster mummy thing I was thinking of before, where it's like in a I'd almost always want mummy over Taskmaster unless but Taskmaster gives you a team comp that you can't do with mummy, right? Taskmaster opens up the other splashes and saying I'm gonna sacrifice a little on the Convo side, the affiliated side, sacrifice air quotes a little, and I guess that's really just the only reason. I think it's. I feel like it's Rhino. He does open up some good like. One thing I like about Rhino too. One thing I like about having another four, is that he just opens up some teams where like maybe I mean if you're forcing Dracula every game then you're not going to play Rhino a ton. But like there's scoundrels teams where maybe you don't want Wong because you're like oh Wong's going to be a shitbag and you're like let's take Voodoo, Magic, Shang, Rhino, Strange at 20, which is a pretty good. It's a pretty good 20 versus like webs, right? Like if you're against like web scrolls or something. Another thing about Rhino is because of the bump and aggressive, one that's really cute in and of itself, but just he is really good for grabbing like an early scroll because of the way his card works and just how like they're gonna need to attack him to be. He's a terrain throw too, which is nice. I think it's Rhino. I actually think it's Rhino. You could make claims for like, oh, you need Crimson Dynamo, Crimson Dynamo is like decent on like meteors and stuff, but I don't know if like you can't get away with it with other team models you have. Oh, I can't play that for team event. Okay, so in the team event, I could play this, and I can't play Rhino because Johnny has them. But we're not in the team event, are we? We can do whatever we want. Let's add in Rhino. Rhino also makes the cards easy because you're going to take robbery. Team tactics. Does this get weird on cards? Let's look at my cards real quick. Breakdown. Does it look weird on cards? I have 1, 2, 3. If you remove this, I have 4 cards that are specific. So one card I can never play. So I have 9 cards, 4 of which are character specific. So in theory, if I ever took a team that didn't use one of these 4 models, which is probably very unlikely unless I'm running like a 17 of Drac, Strange, Voodoo, Magic, which I probably wouldn't do that much. But if I did run that 17, then I would be screwed is not the right answer. I'd have 5 cards, but I would be forced to take Bar with No Doors. No, I would be forced to take Ironbound Books and Warpath. So the only time I could see you getting fucked is the wrong word, but I could see it being annoying would be if you're playing none of these 3 and then you have to take Ironbound Books. But if you're playing that kind of team, you're playing these 3, unless you're playing all energy attacks. Like Ironbound Books is just a solid card because he can use it. Like the 3 of the people that use it best, you'd have. All right, I'll say there's a consideration here to drop Baron or Chi Mastery for either a convocation specific card. I'm not really a fan of Ban Nambala anymore. It could be any of them, whatever you want to play, or Recal. If I had to like go off the top of my head which one I would rip off, I want to say Chi Mastery. The reason being that like Plains of Poldock does a lot of similar, not the same, similar stuff to Chi Mastery. And like I still don't think Chi Mastery is making it over a lot of the cards. What did I have before? Recal? Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I had character cards before. It had like Thralls. I mean, this was Thralls and Recal, so it's not like those were coming in all the time either. This is fine because Chi Mastery is good in this team. Like if you're having Shang, I could also see the Baron maybe is worse because no, you want it online. There are teams without Wong with Baron Zemo that you might just want to get going early. But you could make the claim that like because Wong is one of the affiliated models you use a lot, like he can give a power to Zemo turn one and get the charge on, and then it's not as worth it. Of course, the healing is really good. You probably take these cards. I don't think you would be remiss, and there's very few situations where you'd be like, oh my god, because Warpath is really good. I think so. Like, and you won it with Dracula anyway, so like you're not even missing. I actually think Warpath is pretty sick with this team because Rhino can go like aggressive Warpath bump and get like Gigafar. I'm using Giga a lot. That's probably not good. Using that word so much. Yeah, I like that. I like this team. And then Crisis. I'm kind of happy with these. One thing good about Zemo too is in some 20s, having Zemo or somebody, he can pick up the back scroll. That's really it. Like having somebody that can pick up the back scroll is kind of nice. You can also do 6-wide teams with this. One thing I didn't even talk about is like there actually are some pretty cute. Do I need Mummy to do that? Guys, I'm just all over the place. Let's assume that these are good. I think Fear, the only one I think you could play, not the only one. One I think you could play that actually I think Convocation is good at is Samples. That's it. I think with Bump and with like Scalpel being so strong and just like the displacement the team has, I think you can easily it's much harder to deny your samples and it's much easier for you to get your samples, if that makes sense. So I do think samples, if I loved 17 more, and I don't even have bad 17s, I just don't love it. But I guess with Rhino at least gives me something to pick up. I'm like talking. I'm just thinking to myself right now. I could see putting in samples, is what I'm saying. That'd probably be like right there. I'm not taking Wedding Party with this roster. McCrane is one of those ones that like everyone loves it until they have to play it, right? Like, I don't know if I'm going to take McCrane. I actually think that despite being the threat level, I actually think this one is weirdly good for us because we have a lot of mobility. It's not based on any stats, so you're not getting screwed by it with like I guess in this team, it's not really like if you think of Mad Men, you're not getting super screwed by it because you have a lot of threes. But you're also not, like, the enemy also isn't getting advantage. You're not going to be against, like, a bunch of 4. Like things like Maw and stuff aren't getting fucked by it versus, like, Mad Men. It's also tighter, which actually, I think, really matters when it comes to, like, Doctor Strange and stuff. Like, I think the ranges of this one are just enough that you're, like, scalpeling and charging and stuff is much more relevant than maybe Mad Men, which is a lot wider. Also, some of it's like the fun aspect of it. Like you could take Riot Sparks and Infinity Formula and like go to town. Part of me also is like, there's a fun aspect of it. Like that, there's no other way to put it. I do find some of these fun. I don't think I'd pick the Deadline. I think if I had to like close my eyes and pick without thinking too much, I'd probably go Infinity Formula. I'm not like. I think we have good 17s. We have a lot of different options. 17, you can go Maw. You can go, that 5-wide without Strange. You can go Strange with, more fighty. You can go Dracula without, whatever, depending. I guess I could see a world where one of these would be samples if you like 17 enough. Like, you're not trying to force high threats. I don't know. This is pretty good. It's kind of like a nice mix. I guess Skrulls would be okay. Skrulls could be what did I just say? Samples, if you wanted. And I think Sparks, McCrane. I just wouldn't pick Intrusions. I probably wouldn't actively pick Wedding Party, though I wouldn't fault you if you had a plan for it. I actually think my plan... The problem I have is the threat. Like, I want to play Wedding Party at 20 if I'm going to play it, probably. I think Intrusions I wouldn't pick. Obviously, definitely not. I wouldn't pick Meteors. I probably wouldn't pick Fisk. I definitely wouldn't pick it. Yeah, I think this is good. This might be the list I play tonight. If I don't play this tonight, then you all can yell at me and I would have made a decision in the next 14 hours. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for listening.